Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I take a couple of whole chickens and roast them in the oven and use the meat for a recipe and then use the bones to make a big batch of bone broth. So here you'll see I'm starting with just 2 whole chickens and they're both just a little under 4 pounds. And I'm getting them in a pan. I line that pan with aluminum foil just to make cleanup real easy. And I'm sprinkling them with this poultry seasoning. Now this poultry seasoning is not like what you'll have around Thanksgiving that's got the sage in it that you use in dressing and stuff like that, or stuffing mix. This is a poultry season that reminds me of like a rotisserie chicken sprinkle. So it's got salt and peppers and garlic and onion powder, and it has a little bit of cayenne in it too, so just a little bit of a kick. But while I'm cooking this with the skin on, I'm not actually serving it as the skin's on it. We're going to be deboning it and using just the chicken. So here it comes after it's been in the oven. I put it in at 400 degrees, and I usually start checking around 40 minutes. These only took about 45 because they were small, but you could go up to an hour if you have like a 5-pound bird. What I do is I use my meat thermometer though to check them, and you want to make sure it's 165 or higher. If you're cooking chicken breasts that are boneless and skinless, 165 and they're done. You don't want to go past that because they'll be dry. But with it being on a bone and with the skin, I'm not too worried about these. They were hitting 174 and like 185, and that was fine. And the juices were running clear, so I knew I had them cooked, which was the point of all that. So now they're cooked, and I had let them cool, and then we deboned those birds, and then we've got that bowl of chicken. I made 10 cups of rice. That's how much it cooked up to. 10 cups is what it was, the cooked size. I've got a couple of pans. I'm using my casserole dish for the glass one that night, and I'm going to put one in the aluminum one in the freezer. I have a 2-pound bag of broccoli florets, 4 cups of cheese, 2 cans each of cream of mushroom and cream of chicken, and some salt and pepper. You won't need a ton of salt and pepper because everything's kind of already seasoned. I seasoned my rice as I cooked it in my Instant Pot with a little bit of chicken bouillon and butter. So now this recipe calls for 5 cups of rice, so I'm just measuring that out, and it should be half of what I have, and it was. And then it calls for like 2 cups of chicken. I ended up doing about 3 cups of chicken. Once I saw what 2 cups of chicken looked like, it just didn't feel like enough compared to how much rice I had put in there. So I ended up doing about 3 cups of shredded chicken. And then the recipe called for like 2 cups of broccoli. And again, that just didn't feel like enough. And these were big chunks of broccoli. So I just took the 2-pound bag and kind of put my hands in the middle of it and poured it out and did half a bag. So a pound of broccoli if you were just making one of these. And same thing with the cheese. It's a 1-pound bag, which is 4 cups of cheese. And I just kind of found the middle and poured that in. That should be about 2 cups, and then I'll save the other 2 cups for the other casserole. Then each can of chicken, a can of cream of mushroom, can of cream of chicken, goes in, a little bit of salt and pepper, and stir it all up, dump it into your greased pan. Now I topped the one that we were cooking that night with another little, about half a cup of cheese on top. Left the one that's going to go in the freezer with no cheese. And then I'll cover that one with some aluminum foil, and that's going to go once it's cooled down good, because everything's cooked in there except for the frozen broccoli. But it's got to cool down because my rice was hot. Then I can stick that into my freezer, and we're baking the other one for that night's meal. I always like to have a backup. You never know when a family member's or a church member's going to be sick, or just in need of a casserole, or if you're just going to have a busy night and you need to pull something out and not have to worry about cooking. So I make sure and write my instructions on that. Add that half a cup of cheese to the top, thaw it, bake it at 375 for 30 minutes. And that's the same instructions for the one that you're going to be putting in the oven that night. $3.75 for about 30 minutes, and ours was good to go, and it looked beautiful and it tasted delicious. So good recipe, easy, and comfort food for sure. So now I'm just taking those bones from the 2 chickens that I had roasted, adding a tablespoon of salt and a couple of bay leaves, and then 1 whole onion I've just peeled and cut in half, and a couple stalks of celery that I've washed and cut up into some pieces so it'll fit in there, and 1 gallon of water. And that's what my crock pot will hold. If I do a larger bird, like 5 pounds, I'll just do 1 bird's worth of bones in that crock pot. But if I have, these were just small. They were 3.5 pounds, so they were just smaller, so I put them both in there together. You set your crock pot on low for 24 hours. That's right. I set it in there at 4 o'clock that afternoon, went to bed, got up the next day. It smelled like Thanksgiving with all those smells in my kitchen. And then 24 hours later at 4 o'clock the next afternoon, and this is what I have. And so I just kind of stir that up, and you can see the richness. Now I'm going to include here a couple of clips of the benefits of bone broth, and that's what we've made. It's more than just chicken stock. They call it bone broth these days, and what this means is you have steeped your bones for 24 hours low and slow, and so the crock pot works great for that. And there are so many great benefits to then drinking it. We sometimes, when we're doing fasting here at our house for medical reasons or anything, we will drink some bone broth in place of a meal, and it's quite filling and it's good for us. And we just have those who have arthritis in our joints, or if you have leaky gut. Sounds gross, I know, but according to the doctors, we need to fix it when we have it. And so this will help. The bone broth helps. And so what I do is I just strain out the skin, the bones, and those vegetables and bay leaves and everything. I just put my strainer into my measuring cup and dip it up. I usually can get about, from 1 crock pot, 12 cups of bone broth. And so, of course, I don't need to use 12 cups of bone broth at one time. So I just make sure you have a plastic container that can go in the freezer. On the bottom of them, it'll say if it's okay to freeze stuff in it. Make sure it has a lid that fits nice and tight. And then I will just dip out my bone broth and let it cool. You don't want to stick that in your freezer piping hot. Back there, sorry about the mess. That is, it's spring break this past week. And so my daughter's been helping me clean out stuff. And so it was kind of disorganized in our kitchen. But here I've got like my 12 cups worth. And so some of it I need for recipes that night and some for later. So like that, I'm just showing you that I'm putting it in a mason jar because I'm going to need it in a couple of nights for the dinner that I'm making. So I have that. That can go in the fridge. The freezer containers will go in the freezer. And then that was for that night's meal, which will be coming up in another video. So stay tuned if you'd like to see how I use it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe. I'd love to have you back here again. Bye-bye.